Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba. All right. Promoter 101. 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 Promoter 101.
This is Bobby Clay from C3 Presents, and you're listening to Promoter 101.
Here we go with episode 194 of the Promoter 101 podcast. This is really getting real, folks. Just a handful of shows left. Let's savor them while it lasts, friends. Like a slow-aged barrel whiskey. Savor it.
And maybe reading aloud with some of those warning labels that might come on some of that delicious bourbon, Dan. This episode of Promoter 101 contains a masterclass session. We've got North American president of AEG Presents, Rick Mueller, on the podcast. He's sitting down talking shop with us, early days at Goldenvoice, to his time at the Bay at Bill Graham Presents, to his current position, which is overseeing all of North America for AEG Presents. We're looking forward to that interview later on in this podcast.
Plus a special inside look at the House of Blues Music Forward Foundation with Executive Director Nurit Smith.
Episode 194, Promoter 101, starts right now.
This is John Giddings, and I'm on Promoter 101.
You've probably heard by now the podcast is coming to an end, but we're going to bring the last show to beautiful Music City, Nashville, Tennessee, just like we always wanted to.
It'll be our final interview, our last live podcast. We're going to be live from the International Entertainment Buyers Association Conference this year as one of the keynote sessions at the JW Marriott here in Music City, Nashville, Tennessee. Check out the full schedule at ieba.org. But we are on Sunday, October 27th at 2 p.m., and we are going to have one of the most influential executives in the touring game today, Deborah Rathwell, on that stage with us. She is the SVP of Global Touring at AEG Presents. And we hope that you'll make it out. Passes are still available. Get registered at ieba.org. Check it out, and we hope to see you October 27th.
And if you get a chance, please pick up a brand new Promoter 101 t-shirt. All the money goes to Music Cares. $20 for the t-shirt, $50 for the hoodie. 100% of the gross donation goes to Music Cares. No additional shipping or handling. Plus, it's all tax deductible. What do you think about that, Luke?
Well, I think it's even better, Dan, because our friends at Prism are going to be matching the first $10,000 in donations to Music Care. So get on it right now. So if you take $20, buy yourself a lovely t-shirt, or $50 and you buy yourself a warm, soft hoodie, Prism will match that. And Dan, I have to say, the Prism folks have been so good to us and so good to our listeners who have supported this endeavor. Check out the folks that are helping us raise a lot of money, prism.fm.
And if you want to buy a t-shirt, go to promoter101.net/merch and check out our wares.
This is Bob Rue with Live Nation, and I'm on Promoter 101.
Hey, some birthdays, Dan. It's the week of October 15th to 21st. We are celebrating some days of birth. Who we got?
Well, 10/15, Jen Federici and Jelena Ross.
On Wednesday the 16th, happy birthday goes out to Jason Colton, Trey Manny, and Jeff Rogers.
Thursday, 10/17, Brian McKenna and Justin Cahill.
On Friday the 18th, wishing happy birthday to Billboard's Ray Waddell, Ron Berman, Zach Hyde, and the Mensch himself, Shep Gordon.
Hey, Saturday, 10/18, David Shapiro.
On Sunday the 20th, happy birthday to Rich Schaefer.
Monday the 21st, Jamie Loeb. Happy 50th birthday, you beautiful woman, you.
Wonderful wishes to everybody on your birthday from the gang here at Promoter 101.
This is Lenore Kinder. I work for AEG Presents, and you're listening to Promoter 101.
Promoter 101 Flashbacks.
Episode 25.
Steve Martin.
You know, there's a lot of thought goes into playing the right venue and the right night at the right ticket price, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where Ellis and Andy and Bruce and Josh Umeston, raised that from just a mechanical job to an art form. It is our form of art to give the artist the confidence to believe in what we can do. We project that confidence onto the promoters and say, okay, we really think it'll do this, this, and this. And you'll find out quickly what's right and what's wrong. I mean, Dolly, I got 62 out of 64 shows right, which I was very pleased at. They either sold out or they came within 90%. New Jersey, I got wrong because the ticket price was too high because they wanted to pay a lot of money. So it did well. And your show I got wrong because it sold out too damn fast.
You didn't get it wrong. If it sells out, you didn't get it wrong.
If I sell out in a day and it's 4 months away, I go, damn it, we should have played a bigger place. I made
a shitload of money. I guarantee you didn't do it wrong. That is exactly what promoters want to see. Show selling out too quick.
From my point of view, I got that one wrong.
Yeah, from hers too.
But it's a good way to get wrong. It's a good thing to get wrong as opposed to we sold 200 tickets in a 5,000-seater. So.
You don't often hear agents complaining that you sold their show out too quickly. I'll take that as a compliment.
Hey, this is Bill Silva from Bill Silva Entertainment. You are listening to Promoter 101.
Dan, we've been fortunate enough to highlight some amazing nonprofits doing some great work in the music business. And today is no different because we've got a special look inside at the House of Blues Music Forward Foundation as we are joined right now in Promoter 101 with its Executive Director, Nurit Smith.
Nurit Smith, you're doing good things for good people. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, we were birthed as the International House of Blues Foundation 26 years ago. And I think it's important to acknowledge those roots. Unity and diversity, help ever hurt never, is still woven into our DNA. But we evolved into the Music Forward Foundation about 5 years ago and now sit underneath the Live Nation enterprise as the nonprofit that really helps and focuses on empowering that next generation of both artists and industry professional. Our mission statement is to transform young lives, inspire careers, and champion a more inclusive music industry. So not only are we tackling some of the challenges with our young people in the United States these days, but how do we help with the diversity pipeline issue that's happening in the industry as well?
Okay, and exactly how are you doing that? What good things are you guys doing right now? Give us some examples.
Over the years, we've invested over $25 million in communities across the country and affected more than 1 million young lives. Annually, we're reaching about 17,000 young people with unique workshops and experiential opportunities, getting young people to be aware of the jobs out there that are in the industry, connecting them with venues, folks that are working in the industry, in the live entertainment industry on a regular basis, so we can start sparking some of those opportunities and help the young people build their social capacity and capital within the industry so they can make those choices and the industry is available and accessible to them.
So you guys are going out to the kids that maybe not find out about how to put concerts together and how to work in the industry through concert board at college because maybe they didn't have that opportunity. They're not going to get that opportunity to be at concert board in San Diego, opposed to reaching out to them and show them that this world exists. Give them those tools that maybe they only would have gotten if they worked as a runner in the early days or went to be at college and concert board or wound up on the road with some amazing uncle that happened to be in the industry. You guys are giving them those breaks that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
That's exactly it. I mean, we've got a problem where 30% of our young people graduating high school are not going to college. And so there's this whole group of folks that are disconnected completely. They're not working, they're not in school, and shit happens. You know, this is when bad shit happens, when they don't have a purpose and a focus. And we're helping create some stickiness and opportunity within the industry for these young people.
Do you have any examples of this working?
Yeah. We have this young artist actually out of our Vegas branch and programs. She was going through our emerging artist program. She didn't share this information with us at the time, but she had been tossed around through foster homes for years. And when she was going through our programs, she was homeless and couch surfing. This is a 16-year-old who had had all of this challenge and trauma throughout her childhood, but had been able to focus in on music. We worked with her, giving her skills and confidence and knowledge, and she will say that Music Forward has been critical in her evolution, not only as an artist, but as a confident person. We gave her a safe space to experiment and to work on her craft and have constant feedback from industry professionals on it at the same time so that it was able to accelerate those opportunities for her. She got herself down to an audition for Berklee School of Music, got into Berklee School of Music, scored enough scholarship, and she's heading there right now to start her freshman year at Berklee. And we're so proud of her, and we've surrounded our resources around her to help make this possible, giving her opportunity, workshops, tools, skills, and we're so proud of her. So that's a great success story we can talk about.
So you guys coached her up with some people that she never would have been able to get to.
Bingo. And then we have hundreds of industry professionals a year that are mentoring these young people at the same time. So we need that, not only the young people that we serve that we're working with, but all the music industry professionals that are giving their time to the next generation. Has been amazing and truly profound to see that baked into people's humanity.
If somebody wants to get involved, how can they do that?
www.hobmusicforward.org. There is a tab on the website that literally says Get Involved. You can donate. You can volunteer your time if you're in the industry. If you are a young person listening to this and you want to get involved, sign up, follow us, check us out. We'd love to get you looped into what we're doing.
If you're out there, you're listening to the Industry Podcast and you want to figure out how to get involved, what a great place to start. House of Blues has been doing it for so many years, supporting the industry in a whole different way, bringing great music to a lot of people. Nurit, I'm just so thrilled you were able to join us here on Promoter 101.
Man, thank you so much. We're honored to be taking up some of those last little pieces of air that you guys are going to have here at Promoter 101. So thank you.
House of Blues Music Forward Foundation is doing some amazing work, and we're thrilled to have their leader right here on Promoter 101.
Dawn Holiday, Promoter 101.
It's Monday, so that means there's a new Promoter 101 Badass of the Week.
That's right. And this one goes out to, well, the biggest manager in the world, Mr. Irving Azoff, because he's the biggest player in the game, kind of making him easily this week's Badass of the Week.
Dan, I think about 50 weeks a year, Irving Azoff could be the Promoter 101 Badass of the Week, but we've held off this long in honoring a guy who certainly deserves it, pounding forward every day for his clients, his company, certainly deserves a Promoter 101 Badass of the Week.
Braden Roundtree, I work at WME, and I'm on Promoter 101.
Established in 2016, Promoter 101 and its illustrious founding fathers, Sir Daniel Steiny Steinberg and the one and only W. Lucas Pierce, have fermented like the finest of wines. And after almost 3 years of bringing you only the most exquisite, educational, and thought-provoking interviews, it is with great pleasure that we bestow unto you the Promoter 101 Masterclass Sessions.
Masterclass.
In our featured interview this week, one of the greats of the North American concert market, it's Mr. Rick Mueller from AEG Presents. He's going to sit down and talk about his time for Goldenvoice. He's going to talk about his time at Bill Graham's Presents. You are in for a treat.
Sunset Marquee hanging out with Rick Mueller.
How you doing, Dan?
Pretty excited. I've been trying to get this one together for a long time, so I'm really thrilled to be in the room with you. We've known each other a long time, back to your BGP days, and I think even a tad earlier than that. You were in San Francisco and we started hanging out a little bit.
Yep.
What always impressed me was you were a music fan first.
Yeah. I love being at shows. My favorite thing in the world is watching a band go up on stage and seeing that reaction from a sold out crowd. I think it's the best part of this business. I've always said since I started, I get paid to go to concerts for a living, and I still feel that way. I mean, the business has changed a lot. My responsibilities have changed a lot, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just fun to be a music fan.
All right. So you gave me some homework before this, which is new. Most guests don't, but that's okay. I was up for the challenge because you gave me an assignment and I fucking did it.
I appreciate it.
Okay. So you were on 2 other podcasts previous.
Yeah.
The Red Man podcast, Steve Rennie, who I adore.
Yes. Love me some Steve Rennie.
Maybe 5 years ago you were on that. And it's more of like a Tonight Show version of what the entertainment industry should be.
He is a bit of a Johnny Carson, the Steve Rennie.
It was a fabulous setup. The whole set and what he built. This is really cool and it's super YouTubeable and it's easy to find.
Yes.
But your history is on that, very well documented. So I quickly want to go over it. And if anybody wants to hear way more detail about it, it totally exists.
Sure.
So your school days.
Grew up in the Bay Area out in the East Bay. As I like to say, I kind of lived the suburban dream. Spent most of my formative music youth going to Bill Graham Presents shows. And when I finally got a job there, I used to joke that I had probably paid my own first year salary with all the shows I had gone to, which was saying 2 things. I went to a lot of shows and BGP didn't pay very much when I started, but I couldn't have been any more lucky to get my first paying full-time job, and that was after I'd gone to school at Santa Barbara. That's where I got into concerts, joined the programming committee there right after my freshman year. That led to me calling Paul Tillett at Goldenvoice when Pearl Jam was doing the anti-Ticketmaster tour, and now they're promoted by Ticketmaster. So I called Paul Tillett and said, hey, we should do them at Harder Stadium. There's no ticketing contract there. I did a bunch of legwork for him. I have no idea if that was ever a reality, if Pearl Jam was going to consider such a thing, but I worked hard on it for Paul and then talked my way into a summer internship down at Goldenvoice, which was really the end game.
Did you have a relationship with Paul before you called him?
My friend had interned at Goldenvoice the summer before, but
so you had a little in.
I had the phone number and knew who to call.
But he didn't know the name Rick Mueller when you called him.
Correct.
Okay, got it. You cold called him.
I cold called him. And so they asked if I could start coming down earlier than summer. So I started cutting class 3 days a week, going down to LA and sleeping on friends' couches and working at Goldenvoice that spring and then full-time in the summer. Then I went back to finish at Santa Barbara my senior year. We ran the concert program in the black that year. It was pretty remarkable for a college program.
Yeah, because colleges have to overpay to get talent. So that's really cool.
Santa Barbara's unique because it kind of sitting there between LA and San Francisco where bands need to fill in plays. There wasn't really a lot of options. So I wouldn't say you could lowball it, but you didn't probably get held over a barrel like most colleges do.
And it might be a little bit cooler
to
play Santa Barbara than Fresno.
Yeah. When you're playing Southeast, Northeast, Illinois State colleges, that the bands aren't going there but for the check versus, you know, you are playing LA and you are playing San Francisco.
They got to drive right past you.
And they got to play somewhere on a Monday night. So
God bless the Mondays in the middle of nowhere.
That's right. It's some glorious shows with No Doubt and Ben Harper and the Mighty Mighty Bosstones and the Food Court on Monday night. So
best bands in the world, though.
I loved them.
So school into Goldenvoice, and you parlayed that into a job.
My production manager's girlfriend's father was friends with Greg Perloff, who was running Bill Graham Presents at the time. And so I faxed a resume to Greg, kind of using that name drop and path. And I was in my apartment at Santa Barbara on a Friday afternoon when I got a call back, and Greg Perloff was on the other end of the phone, and I was like shoveling down a bowl of pasta and 3 beers into the afternoon as it was a Friday at Santa Barbara, and we did a lot of that kind of stuff. Dropped what I was doing and flew to San Francisco the next week and had a great interview with Greg and Sherry and Lee, and I was lucky enough to get a job at BGP like 3 days after I graduated Santa Barbara. So it was great.
So at the point you had been an intern at Goldenvoice, but you hadn't worked at Goldenvoice yet.
I had interned at Goldenvoice the whole time, and they paid. I think, you know, Rick Van Santen used to pay me out of a shoebox full of cash, which was just made the whole experience that much better. When I knew I was graduating and I wanted to go in the concert business, I had gone to Paul and Rick, and at that point they were just opening the Glass House, and I don't think we're in a position to bring on another full-time body into the company. So
and they were still in the house, right?
They were in the house. They moved from the house that was by Chateau Marmont to the one that was further down Sunset across the street from
the strip club. Yeah.
The strip club. Yeah. Fun fact on that. That was about midsummer they moved in there. So I helped move the whole office in there. And we noticed there kept being car accidents, rear end car accidents right out at the intersection that was at that house. And by the end of the summer, what we figured out is it was always guys rear-ending somebody because they were at the red light staring in the seventh fail, like they were going to get a free peek at something, and they weren't looking, and they'd bang into the person in front of them in a light.
Okay, that's awesome. That office was packed.
Yeah. It was an incredible experience because it would have been a good fortune to work at the intern at Bill Graham Presents as well. But Goldenvoice was a really small up-and-coming company at that time. And so I got to work literally right in between Paul and Rick and putting together offers, hearing what they were talking about, their deals when they were trying to get, you know, they were doing the shows at the Velodrome, and those were the Lollapalooza years. As opposed to if I was at Bill Graham Presents, I most likely would have been like filing posters back in the archives all summer. So the experience I got just being around Paul, Rick, and Moss was at Goldenvoice at that time as well was incredible. And it really helped kind of that next level education that you don't get in. You're not going to learn this stuff on a program council, just like how professional promoting goes. And so that really helped me in my last year at Santa Barbara. And then ultimately, I felt like that experience is really what set me apart from anybody else that Bill Graham Presents was considering at that time.
Okay, so how'd you get the gig there?
Like I said, production man's girlfriend's father's was the intro. Went up to interview with Greg. I think at that time, they were looking to bring in, I'll call it a developmental prospect, meaning an assistant that they could groom to turn into another talent buyer. At that time, getting a job in the talent buying department of Bill Graham Presents was kind of a very difficult thing to do. I don't know that I'd actually realized that when I was interviewing, but it was kind of a coveted role. And I went up and had a great interview with Greg. I went up there, you know, I think I was up there at the end of the day on a Friday, which turned out to be a really good time because if there was no shows at the end of a week on a Friday, it just wasn't that busy. It was a good time to like get people's attention, as I kind of later learned in the office. They grilled me on what I knew, and I asked lots of questions. And, you know, I brought up my show file from a big fish show that I had done at the Thunderdome earlier. And Sherry told me later that she was impressed with the show file I brought up, that it kind of resembled a professional looking show file. And that B, I had cut a better deal than her on the fish show that she had done at Davis on that same run of dates, and she was impressed with that. So
you outdid her, so she was impressed.
You know, who knew? Maybe just dumb luck, but I think all of those things kind of combined helped me land the job up there.
What a great place to be. I assume, but I'm not positive, Jeff Wills was in that hallway already?
Yeah, so at one point it was Wills, Bailey, Lee Smith, Sherry, and Greg in and around there. It was an incredible place. If you'd never been to the Bill Graham Presents offices, the photos over the wall, it was like working in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right? Like there was just incredible history throughout the building. So many people that knew so much about the business, incredible personalities like Jeff Wills, is a good friend. Loved it.
You know, it's funny. There's one of the coolest things in the world is to be taken on that tour. And we were talking and I came up to visit you and you gave me the literal tour around the entire office. And I was geeking out on that so hard. That was so fucking cool.
I mean, I felt like the first year I worked there, like you just find yourself spending some portion of the day staring at the wall at some picture that you hadn't noticed before and trying to figure out where it was or to place its rock and roll significance. And there was a lot of it. It was a big building and a lot of wall space, but you know, Bill was a pioneer, did a ton of amazing things.
It was very cool. I remember you took me to the airport after the meeting and we stopped to get a burrito in the Mission. And just, you could see I was like totally thinking, and you're like, we had a meeting with Lee. So you thought maybe I was in my head and you were like, dude, where you at? Where you at? It's like, dude, just like some of the history on the walls is amazing. It's like, you're thinking about that, not the meeting? I was like, oh, sorry. Yeah, it was. That was where I was at. I was just nerding out.
So, you know, they opened a Bill Graham museum exhibit, right? It opened here in LA at the Skirball and ran 3 months. That's where I saw it. And the craziest part is when I went to that, it had some Bill artifacts that I hadn't seen before and some contextual stuff. But then maybe a third to even half of the exhibit was stuff that was from around the office and like old photos and framed letters and things of that nature. And it was so cool to see all that stuff in context, but it was also like a little distracting because you'd be walking through the exhibit and then you'd look at a piece, you go like, that was hanging just to the left of the door by the men's room. Like you just couldn't, like, it threw you off. And it was like, for me, it was a very nostalgic ride forward and backwards of like my own life, Bill's life, in the context of having seen these things and become so familiar with them over the time I spent there.
Fast track for a minute. So Greg and Sherry Live.
Yeah.
And you keep moving up in BGP.
Yep.
Quite a bit. Live Nation moves you down to LA and you oversee a part of the region and that continues to grow your business.
So, yeah.
Will grow you in the business. The business is obviously growing.
Yeah. We'll say, we all grew together. How about that? So 2003, Greg and Sherry leave to go start another Planet Entertainment. I was 1 foot out the door with Greg and Sherry there. And it was an interesting time, right? So that's post 2001. So post 9/11, everybody's in a little bit more of a heightened state of alert on how they deal with things. It's also, you know, Clear Channel had put their foot down on censorship, meaning there was not as much of a flexible time to talk about. The Dixie Chicks got shunned for calling out George Bush when they were in Europe, right? So Clear Channel was infamous for having that playlist, songs that shouldn't be played on air at that time. And while it never filtered down to the promoter's office to say what to book, what not to book, what was interesting, it was also at the same time that Enron crashed, right? From all that fake auditing, another Texas company. And so there was this really conservative, heavy-handed management of the company going on at that point in Clear Channel. And that's what led to a lot of the frustrations for some of these promoters that started exiting Clear Channel. I think Greg and Sherry ended up being one of the first. There were some others that left as well, but it ended with somebody getting let go that was a longtime BGP employee on an internal audit that shouldn't have let go. And it was this crazy political thing. And so I had been in discussions and had a conversation with Greg about what Another Planet was going to be. I thought it was a really interesting opportunity. And at the same time, the folks at Clear Channel at the time, Don Law and Dave Lucas were running it. Mark Campana came out to San Francisco as Greg and Sherry were going to leave. I was very close with Greg and Sherry. They put a lot of pressure on me to stay at the company. They let it be known that, you know, there was going to be lawsuits and there was going to be a lot of turmoil around this thing. And so it was an interesting time because it was the first time I felt like that the pressure of the business being pulled one way or the other, and I had to make a decision. So
right. Young, just with a brand new baby.
Yeah,
marriage.
life was young. I
didn't have the money in the bank of the long presidential talent buyer in the companies for years.
I had done well. I'd called myself young in the business, and the climate wasn't one that you questioned the establishment at that time. With that, in the post Enron, post 9/11, people. It wasn't cool to push back at that point. And, I applaud Greg and Sherry for pushing back. But, I kind of got in the middle of that and had to make a decision. And while I stand by the decision and things have worked out great for me, it certainly has cost me a certain bit of a personal relationship that I had with Greg and Sherry. And what that opportunity would have looked like at a different time, who knows? I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about it that way. But it certainly was a time in the business that I think doesn't get quite as much press as some of the other, moments of consolidation and kind of this newer era of live concert business.
But when you were in San Francisco, you really, really grew into that position.
Sure.
You and Jody wound up doing amazing things there.
Yeah, look, Jody was a great partner, and Lee was with us at that time, and Lee was running the office, and Jody and I were booking stuff. Jody moved out for Boston after Greg and Sherry left to do Another Planet, and we had a great time together. Them leaving provided me with a lot of opportunities. So, it's ironic that Greg and Sherry provided me with a lot of opportunities. Them leaving also provided me with a different set of opportunities by making the choice to stay. So again, built this incredible relationship with Jody. We had a ton of fun. We had a lot of success together. And then I got a call in 2008 from Jason Garner, who asked me to move down to LA and oversee the Los Angeles office in addition to the responsibilities I had in San Francisco. It turned out, at that point I was 35 years old. I think my daughter was 3 or 4 years old. We had to make a decision on where we're going to put her into school soon. My wife grew up in Redondo Beach, so it was an interesting time where I had spent the better part of my entire life living in the Bay Area, and we said, job looks good. My wife wanted to be down in Southern California around family and friends. I was looking for just kind of a new environment. I've got nothing but love for the Bay Area, but wanted to try something new. So it was time to make the switch. So we moved down to LA in 2008, had a good run there from 2008 to 2011, which, in hindsight, it wasn't probably the best time to be, well, quite frankly, in any business, because the market crashed and people stopped buying tickets. So I got a crash course in concert economics when I moved to LA, because it was, a more difficult time to sell tickets. The only thing we were selling at Live Nation at that time was $20 ticket programs and trying to just fill the amphitheaters the best we could at that time, because people discretionary income had gone out the window at that point.
Yeah, the economy was in a different place.
Yeah.
So how long were you in the LA office for Live Nation?
2008 to 2011. I left March of 2011 to go back over to work with Paul at Goldenvoice.
Okay. And yeah, the AEG reunion with Goldenvoice.
Yeah.
You stayed in LA, but you went over to AEG.
Yeah. So I made the decision after talking to Paul for a while. A bunch of people had left Live Nation at that time. Lee Smith had exited, who was a longtime friend and mentor of mine. Jason Garner, who I had come up with, he started as a Latin promoter in San Jose, and we did shows forever. And he came on to Live Nation and did very well, was the president or COO of all of the North American offices as well. And Brian Murphy had left a couple months before that to go over to AEG. And so as I started talking to Paul Tollett about the opportunity, it just got more and more attractive to kind of try something new. I'd kind of felt like I'd run my course at Live Nation, and it was time for a change.
Originally singing over California, right?
Yeah, I went to go work at Goldenvoice and help them. They had gotten traction in the Bay Area, so I was helping them with some of the Bay Area shows and getting going and building more of a business in LA, as well as San Diego. So I was doing that for about a year or two. Year and a half, when Randy Phillips and Tim Lewicki were parted ways with the company in short order from one another, and Jay Marciano came in to run AEG Presents and asked me to oversee all of our North American offices.
Kind of the role you're in now, right? You're the president of America?
President of North America.
Okay.
That and $3.50 gets me coffee at Starbucks.
What is your job entail as the president of North America?
So I wear a lot of hats over there. My division produces a little over 12,000 shows a year.
12,000?
Yeah. It's herding a lot of cats, as I like to call it. And managing, we staying on plan for the year, that we're growing each of those businesses from the venues that we operate to third-party shows things of that nature, working on business development, whether that's getting in with developers to build new venues, taking over existing ones. We've rebuilt our digital department. So I led the process to go find somebody to come in and revamp our whole digital marketing strategy and infrastructure. What else do I do? All kinds of odds and ends. But in and amongst that, I've done a couple of tours over the last couple of years. I found it's easier to be a tour promoter than it is to be a local promoter because I only have to talk to one agent and one manager about a lot of shows as opposed to a lot of agents and a lot of managers about one show is the best way I can kind of use my time and be effective as a promoter because I still like scratching that itch.
Is that still your favorite part of the business is buying shows?
For sure. I mean, my favorite part of the business is not buying shows, it's promoting shows. And it's working on it. Like we just finished doing a tour with Panic at the Disco. It was an incredible experience working with the Crush guys, and Andrew Simon's a good friend. I've known him forever, but that project has kind of had its high and then it went dormant for a long time, and they've been having their rebirth, and he's having an amazing run right now. So to be able to, sell out 56 arenas and enjoy watching that kid, Brendan Urie, just crush it every night was pretty fun. And it's just, again, always the most rewarding part of the job is when you're out there watching people have a blast and just lose their mind when their favorite act takes the stage. It's so great.
It's a rare thing when you see an act break a single, go away for 7-10 years, and then break another single. They got to appreciate it more the second time because they actually know that it's how rare it is.
I would think so. I mean, that first record was so big. They had a great run. The second one didn't resonate, and then he went away. But to me, it's a perfect example of where the internet has changed the paradigm and streaming has changed the paradigm because when we were doing this tour, so many people who knew them from their radio days when Sins Not Tragedies were huge, they're like, Panic at the Disco, where are they playing? Like the Warfield? I go, no, we're selling out, Oakland and San Jose. And they're like, what? Really? I go, they're the biggest band you don't know exists because when they came back, the kids just found the songs on Spotify and online. It didn't have that mainstream press, until High Hopes really cracked through on this album. Like they haven't had a radio hit.
So when you go to the show, do the kids know because of Spotify all the other songs from the old early albums? Do they study them all?
Yes. First of all, I have like the full best market research in my house. My daughter is number one band is Panic at the Disco, right? What's interesting about Panic is the fans there's an older fan that fell in love with them back in 6 or 8 when the band broke, right? And they're still there. They're coming back. And then there's also my daughter who's 14 who's been into the last 2 records, but now is digging deeper all the way back through the catalog. So it's not as young of an audience as you would expect for a pop rock act like that.
Let's talk about the acquisitions and the buildings. You guys have picked up some companies this year. You picked up some venues. The Agora's come online for you in Cleveland. In Columbus, you guys brought Steinberg into the mix. Like, those are some really good pickups.
Yeah, we're excited about it. So the Agora was a great opportunity. I mean, Cleveland has not been maybe at the top of everybody's routing sheet.
And I don't want to ignore Australia. It's not your part of the shop, but AEG's growing all over the world. It's an amazing pickup with Chuggy. But I want to focus on the American ones because that's your realm.
Yeah, so the Agora the deal was presented to us a certain way. It's an incredible room with so much rock history. So
the LeConte's really built that room well.
Yeah, and just the birthplace for rock and kind of some of the historic shows that have played there. And so we were able to renovate that room and really restore it to its glory. It was literally one of the situations where we pulled up the carpet and found the hardwood floors. We pulled up I don't know what they call it, that elephant skin, tough flooring that they put over stuff to when they put that sticky flooring on top of real flooring. We pulled it up and there was beautiful old tile underneath it. We pulled off the crappy drywall, beautiful tiled walls. And it's like we got an extra $1 million out of our renovation for free just by doing demo and finding a treasure behind the walls. It was pretty cool.
So great thing there. Obviously, Scott's opening these indoor-outdoor pavilions, the A&Es, incredibly cool places.
Yeah, Scott was the pioneer in that indoor-outdoor concept, and it's actually pretty genius, to be honest with you, because, if you own and operate a club, the summer months are on the lean side, and again, it's the amphitheater season, so you can just open up the back wall, pay for a stage once, and have a 5,000 seat amphitheater out the back of your building. It's a pretty good model, actually. So
yeah, it seems like something that somebody might want to do more of.
And Scott's a total throwback. I mean, it was when we first started the discussions, so much of what he and I bonded on was talking about Bill Graham Presents because he had worked there and he idolized Bill as well. And so kind of bonding over the history of the concert business and that kind of that Bill Graham history was one of the first things that we hit it off on. So it was pretty cool when he decided to come into the company.
Steiner's a cool guy. He's got some great history, and he definitely guy knows how to do a stadium show. He can do club shows and seems to get the value in the dollar on each level.
I love him. He's so good at it.
Right. So we're at a point in the business where we've caught up. We know where you're at. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
What's the goal for you? Where are you trying to go?
Where am I trying to go? I enjoy learning about how to grow the concert business every day. So sometimes I learn things from our competitors' successes and their mistakes. Sometimes I'm learning stuff from my own mistakes. I've had really good luck in this business to work closely with a lot of really smart people, whether that be Greg, Sherry, Lee, moving to LA and getting to work with Murphy and Garner and some of that time with Rapino when I was over there, and then coming over to AEG and, Paul Tollett, who's basically revolutionized the festival business, and now Jay Marciano reporting into him. I've had the good luck of being learned from and being challenged by a lot of really smart guys. So I try to build on what I learned from those guys every day and help grow the business and just get a little bit better at what I do, whether that's being a tour promoter or how to responsibly manage a budget of 12,000 shows.
Yeah, it's an insane number of shows. How much time do you wind up spending on the festival side of things?
Not that much. The way we've organized our company, the festivals have their own silo. In fact, Melissa Ormond came in to join us this year as our COO of festivals. So she focuses on the bigger festivals and working with all of the different operators there, whether that is Dante and Reeves and the Winter Circle guys down in New Orleans doing Buku, to working with Tollett's team on Coachella and Stagecoach and some of the bigger ones in terms of how we manage the processes and operations of those.
It's just massive.
Yeah. I mean, the budgets are so incredibly big and there's so many moving parts that if you don't have an incredibly focused game plan, the experience and the expense can get away from you really quickly.
The numbers that are involved in buying a world tour now are insane.
Yeah.
The numbers are just massive now. I mean, if you're talking about a global tour, you're talking about a $100 million deal to start for an arena headliner for a 3-year cycle easily. So the numbers are just massive on each time you roll the dice. The amount of time that you and your global partners at the different, regions of AEG around the world must be spending a massive amount of time researching and trying to have a crystal ball predicting when you're competing for those tours.
Look, you've got to do the homework. You got to be smart with your models. I think at the end of this day, I wish we had a massive amount of time to make a decision on all these things. But the nature of how our business rolls is most often you don't have a massive amount of time. You're being asked to make a bet with a limited amount of information, meaning how often do you know what the new album sounds like or how the single is going to be before you have to kind of invest that bet. So you're looking, if you're lucky, what the band's track record and history is, and to know that. But after all these years, there's still a certain amount of just gut intuition that you've got to make a huge decision on and let it rip. And it's kind of the thing that distincts promoters from other people because it's, we're not rocket scientists, but at the end of the day, we have a sense of if something's going to work or not. And if you're wrong more than you're right, you're probably not in the business anymore.
How much of that's your gut?
For me, it's a lot of it has been that. And you know what? It's my gut mixed in with talking to a lot of people who I respect their musical kind of opinion on. So for me, it's still talking to a lot of people of what do they think about band X, and based off of their response, I think that helps me formulate what my gut opinion is going to be.
Your future and your goal of the company, do those correspond? You think the company is going the same place where you mentally are going?
At this point, for me, the challenge of learning how to run a business and grow a business is really enjoyable. And I look for projects and people I enjoy working with. And that's been the great part about AEG is that we're not a public company. The decisions that we make are not always about quarterly revenue, quarterly bottom line. Don't get me wrong. Mr. Anschutz is an astute businessman and wants to know how his money is being spent and is looking for ROI. But we do have a bit more freedom in terms of who we work with, why we're doing a certain project, what we chase. We're not as big as Live Nation, but I like to say we try to pick our projects a little bit more carefully in what we're doing. So if I do that well and I'm enjoying coming into the office every day and promoting shows or figuring out how I can grow the business, that to me is success.
Because you're not a public company, do you spend less time forecasting than you did when you were at Live Nation?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, we're still a big company and, any big company is going to have auditors and books and you can't do 12,000 shows without doing forecasting. It's not the most exciting part of the job, but it's a necessary evil. Is it as intense as it was when I was over at Live Nation? No, it's not. It's not that bad.
The future of the business has changed quite a bit from over the years when we've been talking, and it's always fun to talk to you because we both have, where's this going? Where is that going? And think maybe it was the Stones where you guys really saw it for the first time, but the whole concept of the VIP ticketing and the lift and the platinum and what could happen there and the dynamic pricing seems to be the future. The biggest bands always start it, and it always serves down to the theater bands and the arena bands and down to maybe some of the bigger club acts. But the dynamic pricing, the VIPs, the platinums, is that really changing in your mind the ability to finance some of these bigger shows?
Yeah, so I think this maybe manifested, if you go back, when you say the trickle down, it's funny, the ticket prices started smaller and then grew, if you think about it. So a few years back, Neil Young did a solo acoustic theater tour. His top price was, I'm going to say like $250, $275, maybe even cracking $300 in a theater. And this was by far the most anybody had charge. And these were just the face value prices, right? There was a lot of controversy over it in terms of fans feeling like they were entitled to go to Neil Young for cheaper than what he was charging. But the reality is the shows were selling out in a day. And really what all Neil had done was raise his prices to what true market value prices were. So market value for a Neil Young show before, maybe he's charged $75 for that same ticket. Really, the scalpers had made the difference on the margin from $350 down to his $75, and we're making a lot of money. So, I really took note of that when Neil did that tour. But what you saw was that pricing mechanism start growing where prices were going up to try to catch up to what market value really was. Just because we charge X for a ticket doesn't mean the secondary market can't charge more, right? So why wouldn't we charge more for that same ticket price? But the tool by which we have the technology to take advantage of that wasn't really there. And the first
platinum and
so the first precursor to dynamic pricing was probably flexing, where you were just taking an existing price level and adding more. The next thing that you saw come in was auctions, and we did those when I was at, I don't remember if we were Live, I think we were Live Nation, but I don't remember was the merger had gone through or not. But that was, you're putting 100 seats up on auctions and people were bidding on the seats. That's really, if you think about it, a terrible way to sell a ticket. Like, hey, Dan, come make your best bet on a ticket on a show you want to go to and find out if you're going to get the show at a price. Yeah. It wasn't the right way to sell tickets, but you were seeing the grosses going up and getting higher grosses as a result of it. And then enter platinum ticketing, where people are really just measuring what's going on in the market. You saw the, kind of between auctions and the rise of platinum, you see StubHub just fucking exploded. Yeah. The storefronts of where people were reselling allowed a massive kind of growth in the secondary market. And so as platinum kind of came online, it allowed to kind of take the market read as, how much people were really charging for show and take advantage of that. So that really pushed the grosses up at the same time that, as a general statement, going back to the Neil Young face value thing, people realized you can charge a lot more for a show in general. So you take that up to all the stadium level, is that a few years back, shows were grossing $3 to $4 million, and it would cost anywhere from $1 million to $2 million to produce that show in a stadium, leaving a couple $1 million left over if everything went right for the artist. Now, you're seeing some of these stadium grosses on single shows go north of $10 million. So the stadium business has gotten way more robust by kind of really pushing the market value pricing concept.
And you're taking a bite out of the secondary while you're still giving it to the artist.
So look, you're taking the dynamic prices, take the Rolling Stones that Concerts West, one of our partners, produces, that we're producing their VIP parties, we're producing their VIP packages, we're doing the dynamic pricing, all in along with producing the tour. So we're working collectively to kind of put as much money into the gross and grow that pie as big as we can get it.
It's an insanely new game, but it seems to be a little bit friendlier. We can price the tickets at one price and still get the gross up at the same time.
Yeah, a lot of times when we're working on shows and talking about ticket prices of what we should charge for any given show, a lot of times my line I tell people is like, rob Peter to pay Paul. I still haven't found like a threshold where somebody won't buy a front row seat. So let's get more out of that front row or the best 10% of the house and worry about how little we, and that allows us the flexibility to charge less upstairs if we're nervous about how far a show can go.
The richest people can help make it so the whole show can be put on for the poorer people not to have to dip into their pockets.
And look, if you, spent $20 to get the worst seat in the house, and do what I did when I was a kid and figure out how to sneak down to the floor.
Wisdom from Rick Mueller. I like it.
Yeah.
I want to jump back a little bit before I let you go. Stadium shows are the mega platinum level for a concert promoter. You start at the club, you move in the ballroom, you do your theater shows, you do your arena shows. You can get your hand held all the way through that stuff. The people around you in the venues can hold your hand all the way up. When you do your first stadium show, you really need a lot of help. There's so many things going on. How to cover the field, the sound delays, the towers, how to build it, weather insurance, what have you. Do you remember your first stadium show and that experience and what that was like for you?
The first one that I got to do, like that was my baby, booked and produced by Rick Mueller at Live Nation, was Green Day's American Idiot stadium show. They played New York, San Francisco, and LA on that run in stadiums. And Pat Magnarella, who managed them and had been a friend for a long time, called me up and said, we want to go for 3 stadiums. What do you think? And I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. So lucky for me, I worked at Bill Graham Presents, or what was Bill Graham Presents and became, Clear Channel and then Live Nation. Let's not forget SFX as well. So we had a great team of people there who were really experienced. So Ron Bergman and Robin Alexander and all these people who had done stadium events. These were the guys that were working and creating Days on the Green before there were stadium concerts. So these people were still at the company. So I had an amazing resource in terms of experience at that office to help walk me through the nuances. I had, sat in on settlements for years with Sherry, watching her settle stadium shows and kind of learning how the numbers flow and learning how to kind of get in front of managing stadium budgets. So for me, it wasn't as a nerve-wracking of experience because I had been around it kind of leading up to that time where I got to do my first show. I know the first time that I got to go, to a Bill Graham stadium show when I started at the company, I think my head was on a swivel just spinning around the whole time of trying to figure out from staffing to ticket sales to stage hands and how a stage went up and how the show got produced and got taken out in all of that amount of time. And a show, a sports game loaded in, for the next day as soon as we were gone was a pretty amazing thing to watch in practice. And then the good news is I spent a lot of time producing shows and learning, and by the time I got to do it myself, I felt ready for the opportunity.
What's your favorite show you've ever done?
Oh, man. So I usually kind of put these into clusters of shows because depending on the moment or time, Tom Petty's 20-night run at the Fillmore was probably some of the best, just kind of pure, unadulterated rock and roll I've ever seen. Rage Against the Machine, Evil Empire tour at the Fillmore. I thought the building was going to fall down. Pearl Jam opening for the Rolling Stones at Oakland Stadium, night 3 in the pouring rain was absolutely electric. Prince, Valentine's Day at the Fillmore was fantastic.
How was that show?
Prince, the next night, February 15th, was 10 times better. I was just telling somebody about the show today. The Valentine's show was insane. And you would think Prince, Valentine's, Fillmore, of course that's going to be epic. And I drove in the next night for the show thinking man, this is going to be a little bit of a letdown. And it was the most jaw-dropping thing I'd ever seen.
I remember that.
Yeah. Radiohead, OK Computer Tour at the Bill Graham Civic was pretty amazing. Mumford & Sons first show at the Hollywood Palladium. Beastie Boys at the Palace in LA, warming up for the Ill Communication Tour. Man, there's been a lot of good ones.
All right, I'd check you in one of them, but that was a pretty fucking cool list, actually.
Yeah, I've seen more than my fair share of great shows. I'm a lucky guy that way.
Rick Mueller on Promoter 101. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Mueller. Anyone? Just kidding. We love you, Rick. Thrilled that you joined us right here on Promoter 101.
Still to come on the Promoter 101 Masterclass sessions.
Emma Banks,
Greg Perloff, Randy Phillips, Bill Silva.
Only on Promoter 101
Masterclass.
We are thrilled to announce that Promoter 101 has teamed up with the Recording Academy's Music Cares Foundation to do a little good. And you, our beloved listeners, can help. By going to promoter101.net and clicking the merch tab at the top of the page, you can pick up a stylish, limited edition Promoter 101 Call Ya Mother t-shirt or hoodie in a huge variety of styles and colors. 100% of proceeds goes directly to Music Cares and their mission to provide a safety net of critical assistance for music people in their time of need. Shipping and handling is absolutely free, and for the first $10,000 we raise, our good friends at Prism are matching donations dollar for dollar. Go to promoter101.net right now, click on the merch tab, pick out one of our awesome shirts, and be the heart and soul of the music community by donating to Music Cares. And don't forget to call your mother.
The quote of the week comes to us from Franklin Roosevelt. When you come to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hold on. This plays with your mind, Luke.
I don't know if it plays with my mind, Dan. The guy certainly plays with my heart. What a inspiring figure, and I don't think any better way to wrap up this 194th episode of Promoter 101.
Bergie, tour design. I'm on Promoter 101.
That'll do it. That's the end of our broadcast day. Thank you for tuning in to episode 194 of Promoter 101. And thank you to our wonderful guests today from AEG Presents, Rick Mueller, plus from House of Blues Music Forward Foundation. Thank you to Nurit Smith for coming to the podcast, giving us a little education about the amazing work they are doing. And thank mostly to the folks listening to this podcast right now. We appreciate it so much. We love hearing from you. If you've got a thought, have a question, hit us up at steiny@promoter101.net.
Hey, we'll return this Thursday at 5 p.m. on the Pacific Coast, 8 p.m. Eastern, and then that's midnight on that Greenwich Mean Time area, and that's the Queen's Time, the Mean Time.
The Mean Time. That's right. Thursday, we are going to be on Mean Time because we're interviewing one of the heads of the CA UK office in London, Miss Emma Banks, on the podcast.
Another masterclass session. Get ready for this one. It's great. But until then, we're wishing you sold-out shows for the week to come.
Cheers, and call your mother.
Hey everybody, I'm Chuck Randall, tour manager for all of your favorite bands. And here I am on Promoter 101.